Moon deer. A voice whispered his name in the dark. The voice was half familiar, but he couldn't place it. It came from the depths of the forest where no voice should be. It was after midnight on a cold November night, and Howie had believed himself to be alone. He had left his car at the edge of his land and was walking up the narrow trail through the woods to his home. His land abutted the national forest, and his nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. At this time of night, there shouldn't be a half-familiar voice calling his name. "Moon deer, it's me." He stopped and saw a ghostly figure standing deep in the shadow of the trees. Howie wasn't entirely sober. He'd been celebrating with Jack and Emma a blowout dinner at the Blue Mesa Cafe, complete with 2 good bottles of wine, wrapping up a long, difficult case that they were glad to see the end of. The woods were lit softly in silver light from the waning moon. Howie wished he had a weapon. A knife, a rock, a gun. When you were a private detective, there were people you had crossed that you didn't want to meet late at night in a lonely place. "Don't you know me?" said the voice. The figure stepped from the shadows of the forest and came closer. It was a man in dark clothing, barely visible in the moonlight. "Nick?" Howie said after a moment, not really sure. "C'est moi, amigo," he answered. "Aren't you going to invite me inside?" Howie felt his shoulders relax, but only slightly. Nicholas Stanton had been his roommate at Dartmouth, and there was a long history between them. It had been at least 10 years since they had met last. "What are you doing here, Nick?" Howie asked. "That's not a friendly way to greet an old pal. Aren't you pleased to see me?" "Are you on the run?" "Sure, just like old times. The feds don't give up just because a few years pass. They have one-track minds. That's because you're on their most wanted list, Nick. Look, Moon deer, I'm hungry. I'm cold. I haven't slept for 2 days. I could use a warm place to put up my feet. What do you say?" What could he say? Nicholas Stanton had once been Howie's best friend, and it was hard to turn him away. "Well," Howie said reluctantly, "you'd better come in.